Hello, I'm Sacco, and welcome back to another Mechabellum Replay review. Now, starting off with the starting specialist, it looks like my best pack is probably the Fire Badger specialist. I usually prioritize the starting specialists over the unit combinations. So Farseer specialist looks pretty good, or is like the best specialist that I have access to, but Ballfang isn't that good compared to Ball Arc, since you usually want crawlers with your ball push. And you can't really go wrong with Fire Badger specialist since it comes with 200 supply round 2. Now, with ball arc openers, I generally like to play asymmetrically if I'm at a disadvantage, and sometimes I like to deploy symmetrically if I feel like I have the edge, perhaps against like Stormcallers or whatnot, right? So against Sledge and Marksman, he's gonna buy 2 arc lights, and if I ace and push, I'll probably just lose on both sides. So I have to stack aside if I want to have any advantage. And of course, balls are really good with ace and pushes, since you just overwhelm them, get tower, and then end up getting XP from the tower, and then going to the other tower. Now, Cast is Sabretooth Specialist. Cast is, I believe he's currently rated 2.1k MMR at the moment. And so basically our specialists are more or less the same econ-wise. And since I'm going to deploy asymmetrically, I should have the advantage round 1. Now, when it comes to crawlers, they best pair with the balls compared to the fangs, and I need chaff to chaff for my balls. And usually I like to place my crawlers behind the balls, but in this situation he has DPS already on the board, so I do have to respect that and place the crawlers slightly in front of my balls so that the balls can actually connect and get in. It's a pretty standard asymmetric push positioning. I just a little bit more aggressive than most players. My arc is literally, what is it, like 10 meters off the line, just to hide right behind the crawlers. I am vulnerable to missiles, but it's fine. Now, this positioning is really good. It's kind of easy to predict how Cast would position here. You know he's going to buy 2 arc lights, and the crawlers actually go on in, since I position my crawlers on the outside. That way the arcs would lock onto the steel balls. The longer you can keep chaff alive, the better it is, of course, right? And it has the benefit of the opening positioning has the benefit of chaffing for the balls, while at the same time also tanking for the arc lights with how it ended up turning out. And I even get a ball level, which is insane. Now, the unit drops are here. For me, it's like an easy Wasp pick. Like, Phoenix is also very nice, especially into the Sabretooth, but Wasps is better than Phoenix's in the initial setup, and it's unlikely that he's going to go for the Fangs, just because, well, it's more expensive, number 1, but number 2, it just would feed the Arc Light, so it wouldn't be that good. So for him, he's probably taking either Wasps or Phoenixes. It would hard to go Tarantula for him into the Steel Ball push. So Wasp, just really good. Put it behind a level 2 ball, beacon to tower, and it is a lot of tower pressure in early tempo. And I do run jump drive on the Wasp, so you can do some fancy stuff with that. Now, you would imagine he's going to deploy an Arc Light over here to clear this crawler on the left. So that's the reason why I put the Badger on the flank, and I position it in a way where the Arc Light should get stuck on the Fire Badger. It also has the benefit of, since I am pressuring the left side tower with kind of like a wide posture, it should pull, if he happens to put any chaff behind his tower, it should pull everything to the side, which should allow my balls to just get in pretty easily here. Now, he could also wasp. I was mainly worried about him wasping my right tower since it's wide open. A lot of players like to do that round 2, so I go for an early fortify and a chaff, 2 chaffs with the wasp. So I have a pretty strong turn since it is my Badger turn, but he also has a strong turn is in his Saber turn. Of course, Sabretooth isn't that great into steel balls, especially into level 2 steel balls. So again, this is looking pretty good for me round 2. Interesting to note, though, he positions his sledgehammers horizontally, which is like you'd expect me to go aggro, and usually vertical steel balls or vertical sledges does a better job at stalling the steel balls. It's not like the biggest deal, but against a push, it definitely does help. So even the Wasp levels with the level 2 balls, it's just insane tempo here. Like, he needs a ball answer and he needs a Wasp answer. And he kind of needs like a chaff clear answer. So I think he's got a lot of problems to solve that we can take advantage of. Now, the reinforcements are here. Usually, I just insta-pick all the spells. Spells are just so good in the game. I prioritize tempo, and especially when I'm playing aggro, I prioritize just doing as much HP damage as fast as possible here. So I have to defend the Rhino drop on top of... Like, generally how I approach these scenarios, you assume your opponent's also going to take the Rhino drop, since I'm positioned aggressively and my towers are wide open. So it's more of a game of stall the Rhino drop and hope my... Rhino gets in, or I get the tower faster is the base of thinking here. So I deploy 2 crawlers to protect the tower, and then I just have a Rhino to pressure the weak side. And then I actually unlock the mobile beacon so that I can try to get the tower before the Rhino goes in. But also, sometimes people like to, especially this type of positioning when you're close to the edge, people like to place a crawler here and pull all this crap to Narnia. So it's really good, important to get this beacon down early, I would say. And that's exactly what it does. Now, this is actually a really clever crawler pull. Of course, if I don't unlock the beacon, I'm really screwed. But also, this crawler is going to go towards this flank, and this Rhino is basically going to walk in for free. Like, he calculated this because he's positioning his Rhino to be closer to this left tower. So it's a very clever move by him. It's hard for me to really play around that because I would have to place a crawler in the middle, and that's just a third deployment that I'm not really comfortable doing. So we'll see how it turns out. Somehow one crawler turns to the Rhino, but it looks like his Rhino is a little bit faster than mine. And this debuff is huge for him, or else I would have like crushed, got tower, and destroyed him. So this does get some XP on his marksman, on his saber, on his wasp to help him get back in the game. Not the biggest HP take, but we're still ahead in regards to that. Now, an attack or improved firepower control system is pretty good on the Wasp. That's all I really have access to right now. Shield airdrop is definitely pickable for sure, to prevent any oil, or just like protect from spells, and just have a shield on the board is always very good. Especially like flank shields are very nice. And the trick with aggro is, when you ace and push, you're very vulnerable to spells and vulnerable to oil, so it's good to pressure both sides of the tower. Also, more so, it baits out, like, generally you still want to stack your resources on one side with an ace and push, and pressure weak side tower when you expect yourself to get oiled or get punished by spells. But also, it baits resources to defend the weak side tower on top of keep your weak side safe from their pressure. So it's like it's just a win-win on that regard. And with the jump drive wasp, you can pressure more resources on the weak side whenever you choose. So we can pull this crawler pretty easily since he's positioned it all the way in the back and behind the tower line. And then we should be able to get in pretty fast, I would say. And we do have a level 2 firepower control system on the wasp, so whatever he puts in front of the tower will get destroyed pretty fast here. So he takes the shield airdrop and just places it in front of the arc. This is more so just to protect that crawler pack, I would imagine. And he goes for arc light range and another sledge. The sledge goes on the flank, and this is like super annoying. You'll see what happens in a sec, but all my units turn to this crawler, and then since they're facing this direction, they're going to go literally all the way to the bottom of the flank. So it is good that I'm using this beacon to pressure the other side while half my armory gets pulled apart. It is very annoying to deal with. But not that big a deal because now I can just put the mobile beacon back on that main push and I can put a wasp to defend that sledge. This item is so nasty on the wasp. Like, Jump Drive Wasp, for some reason I thought when they nerfed it to 100 cost, I thought they killed Jump Drive Wasp, but it's just so good for 100 still. Like, so far Cass doesn't really have a real answer to the Wasp Jump Drive yet. He just has like one Wasp as his anti-air. It is hard to play around though, right? But I think with aggro, Jump Drive Wasp, especially with ace and pushes, allows you to do a lot of interesting things. It's a pretty good turn for us. Now the unit drops are here. Scorpion, you would imagine, is what he takes. I could take Phantom Rays and go for a pretty like tempo heavy turn. But there is the Farseer drop, so maybe it's not that great. But honestly, it's only one Farseer. So looking back, I probably should have taken the Phantom Ray just for the tempo. You don't really have to commit too hard to Phantom Rays. Just take through the deploys and make them have to respond to that and then maybe sell out. But I ended up taking the Typhoon just because the Typhoon's pretty good. It isn't good, obviously, until the level 3 Scorpion, which you'd assume is what you would take. But, I mean, there's not a level 3 Scorpion on both sides of the board, right? So it's not that bad of a pick, even if he takes a high level Scorpion. Surprised he takes a Farseer, but that's mainly because he's trying to deal with the Wasps, and the Farseer is pretty good into the balls. But unfortunately, the Farseer isn't really efficient or really fast at killing things, so you can manipulate it with this pull, and usually pushes don't really care too much about the Farseers, especially just have a bunch of crawlers coming in. So I end up putting another Wasp to kill the sledge efficiently. And now I make sure none of this gets pulled to Narnia, and I beacon it straight to tower. And then I hope basically this Typhoon just carries me on the weak side. So the way he's positioned, we basically pull just so many resources. We get this Crawler, this Arclight, and this Farseer, all for a Badger Crawler flank, which is pretty good at stalling. I really like Badger flanks. Sledge flanks are better because they actually stall more because they have 5 bodies, but it's more or less the same thing. And I'm Fire Badger spec, so might as well utilize my unlock, right? This Typhoon's actually getting owned, mainly because there's no chaff on the right side, but the left side does actually collapse. We deal with the flank efficiently, and we take advantage of the debuff. The only main concern on the board on cast side is the Farseer, and it is like top damage this turn, of course. But honestly, not that big a deal. Not much to worry about. We can either pressure the Farseer side and just get debuff and then kill it during debuff, or we can ignore the Farseer and just push the left side for the rest of the game. Now the unit drops, or the cards are here, and I take another item on my Typhoon, which is insane on a level 3 item, just like a lot of scaling going on. And now actually, since he doesn't go for the Scorpion, and we see he has no answer really to the balls just yet, other than just like slowing it down and hope his marksman kill it, I actually invest in the steel balls, which is rare, to take advantage of that. The range just allows you to connect onto key units like Arclights and Sledges and the tower faster than normal. Also the Sabertooth. Like the Sabertooth isn't really a hard counter to steel balls, and it does have the guns to kill the steel balls, but not in a timely manner. So now I jump drive my Wasp back to their weak side tower, and I really want to just make sure this Typhoon dies, or sorry, this Farseer dies, because it is the main problem on the board. And I'm always clicking temp speed to make sure I can just get an early debuff, specifically because like ball crawlers take advantage of the speed since they're low range units. So with the Typhoon, with the firepower control system, and the Wasp with firepower control system, whatever he puts in front of tower should collapse pretty fast here. He's going for a little cheeky tower snipe, but I doubt it really gets in a timely manner. Just crawlers going everywhere, right? He does use the oil on the left side. So it was a good call to use the beacon on the right side with the Typhoon. Balls connect onto tower, and the Wasps take advantage of the debuff. And honestly, him pulling all my units to Narnia during the oil turn, honestly not that big a deal. Mainly because my their main push was on the right side, but a decent turn, but this Phoenix does eventually get the tower, so it does save him some HP damage. And honestly, I didn't even kill the Farseer, which has the damage item on it. Hits for 6k every 1 second, which is insane. So still the main problem on the board is the Farseer, but it's positioned in a way where it's not too threatening. But since I don't kill it during debuff, it ends up just killing the rest of my army here. But still, I would say I'm in a pretty good spot. Like, they just keep giving out these firepower control systems. Unfortunately, I don't have another unit to place it on, so I end up taking the heavy armor for my level 3 steel balls, but just a crazy item now. These balls have basically 100k HP, and at this point, it's really hard to deal with these balls outside of like multi-melter or like a high-level scorpion drop or something. So once the oil goes away, he's gonna have more problems to deal with. Now I have to defend the Rhino drop. I probably just do a defensive Rhino drop because it's really hard to place a Rhino on his board with the high-level Rhinos and the Farseers covering all angles. I just place my Wasps in the back and the Rhino in the back to cover all spots. Now he would imagine with the oil, he's going to be very concerned about this side to defend. So I actually just utilize the beacon not to get pulled to flank, but also it would be like a blind spot or an opening, you'd imagine. It's still going to be a slow oil, but with temp speed, you know, we'll eventually get there. And I click loose crawlers on the crawlers, mainly because his source of chaff clear is arc lights, and loose crawler is very good into arc lights. It increases the time to kill by, I don't know what it is exactly, but like doubles it or whatever, since arc lights one-shot crawlers anyways, and the looseness makes it require more shots. Now he finally gets an answer to the Wasp with the field maintenance wraith play, which is a pretty good play. It's good into balls, good into Wasp, so it covers all those angles. It does help out with the loose. I mean, base wraiths aren't that insane into loose, but it does at least help out. You would need HE Wraith or 8 guns to actually kill the loose crawlers efficiently. But with the oil and the wraiths, he basically stuffs a majority of my push. Which is a clever move by Cast. And it's like 67k HP hit points on a flying unit, so it's going to be hard to deal with. You would need like a melter or boats or like charge shot phoenixes to actually deal with it efficiently. But the oil is gone, that's the good news. And perfect timing, I get the boat drop that I needed. I couldn't imagine taking anything else. Melters could be pickable, but boats are just better aggro units. And yes, boats are weak to the anti-missile war factor, your anti-missile Mustangs, but at this stage in the game, I just need to kill the wraiths and close out. So it should be a pretty safe pick here. I just stack I sell the Wasp since he basically hard countered the Wasp with the Wraith and put the damage item on the boat, and just hard stack the right side, mainly because I had the Typhoon to hide behind with the damage item. I could have stacked boats on either side behind the level 3 steel balls with heavy armor, but I just thought this would be an easier way to get in since he has less resources positioned on this side. Now he goes for the Vulcans, which is a surprising pick, mainly because he needs a way to deal with the loose crawlers, and the Vulcan is really good at that. But unfortunately, he doesn't really have an answer to this boat push here. So we should be able to close out. Now, the main weakness of the boats is the War Factory anti-missile, but honestly, with the ranged balls, it seems like it would be hard to actually get into to counter it efficiently. So honestly, at this point, like Ball Typhoon boat seems like a reasonable comp at this late in the game. I just do defensive missiles in case he does any, like, puts any drops on the flanks or whatnot. So the damage item boat basically efficiently takes care of this wraith, and the towers are basically wide open, and we just like close it out right there. And that is, yep, just a boatload of damage, but no pun intended. And just honestly, it was like perfect drop at the right time to basically fill in the one thing I needed, which is like some air DPS. And the boat came in at the right time. And honestly, I'm usually not the biggest fan of carry boats. Like, I don't like carry boats as like a core strategy that you show from the beginning, but taking it from the unit drops and utilizing it that late in the game, I think can be good. And also, even if I don't win this turn here, the main thing I'm usually worried about with carry boats is the anti-missile Mustangs or War Factory with AM, which is the bigger concern. And as I mentioned before, the balls with range should make that not really of any problem. So seems like this, like Typhoon boat, kind of like, I didn't really hard commit to Typhoon boat per se. It was more Arclight, Ball, and Wasp for the majority of the game, but perfect drop, perfect timing, and then we just got right on in. I would say the main thing with where Cass lost, I think a lot of his positioning was exploited. Like horizontal sledges didn't really stuff the balls that well, and he positioned his chaff and a lot of his units behind tower. Like in this zone, if you position any of your units in this zone, like behind tower, you are very susceptible to getting pulled, right? And Badger flanks are very good at stalling and just pulling crawlers. Like I get to kill this crawler for free and stall like a bunch of his units here, and I do that on the same side. Mainly also this Farseer, which is his best unit in the game, or his best unit like for a majority of the game. He places it outside of the on the tower, so I can just stall it for a majority of the game, and it leaves his tower wide open where his best unit isn't being fully utilized. Now, the only reason his Farseer has a bunch of stats was mainly because, like, in the late stage of the fight, when I get one tower and lose the other side, his just Farseer cleaned up. But I would say his positioning things was, like, the main problem I noticed. Like, a lot of chaff gets pulled, a lot of core units get pulled, and then our ball's leveled, and then we just scale from there. But yeah, that was a decent aggro game. Thanks for watching.